Good evening. This is Bible Answers, and my name is Evan Gregory. Tonight's topic is going to be on the time is short, and so we're going to be talking mainly about, uh, you know, speaking of how we view our time on Earth. Maybe we're, how we should be viewing on time on Earth. Should there be any urgency towards basically getting ourselves aligned with God's will, before the end, before the end of our lives or before the end of the earth, and what the Bible has to say about that. And so we'll be looking at several different scriptures. We'll have them on the screen here. As always, this is brought to you by the North Columbus Church of Christ, located in Columbus, Mississippi. Our website is northcolumbuschristians.com. You can see that scrolling below me. And there you can find out more about us. You also, if you're watching this, you're either watching this on Facebook or YouTube. And so we have those two pages. If you're watching this off Facebook, remember that we always have that YouTube page. Our YouTube page is North Columbus Church of Christ, and so you can find all of our previous videos there. With the changes with Facebook, they delete our videos off the Facebook Live, after so much time, and so we also put our videos up on YouTube so that we can have all of those permanently stored there. And so, getting right into the lesson here, you think about, how we spend our time. The average American, or really the average person on this earth. How do we, how we spend our time on this earth? What do we think about? And a lot of times, and at least in regards to Americans, a lot of people spend their time, thinking about acquiring more money, which means they're acquiring more stuff. And I have several questions here on the slide. The first one says, "Is there anything wrong with stuff? Is there anything wrong with buying stuff, having a car or house or whatever?" Uh, and I think it's clear that the answer is no. Uh, the Bible does not condemn money; it condemns the love of money. The love of money is described as the root of all evil, and so the problem with the money is that we become attached to it. That becomes our focus, and the biggest problem that we have with stuff is that people can just become obsessed with acquiring more and more stuff. That is the sole focus in their life. That they will prioritize money, stuff. You think about maybe status as well. We want to look a certain way. We want to make sure that our neighbors know that we got it going on. That we have plenty of money. Uh, and 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 with that being said, think about what the Bible says um, about our time. Okay, if you're not familiar with the Bible will talk about how our mindset should be, how we should use our time. There's several verses that talk about how basically we need to, as in Ephesians, it talks about that we need to walk circumspectly. That we need to walk with a certain amount of diligence and urgency. That we need to be mindful of what we're doing. That we're not just coasting through life. That our time should be used with purpose. But a lot of times, the way that we use our time, we basically waste it, or we spend it on just our pleasures. We may spend half the afternoon scrolling through Facebook, seeing what's going on with Facebook, and not really looking for anything, but just just wasting time. And so we have to be careful about how we do use our time, and not spend it so much on frivolous things. 1 Corinthians 7 and verses 29 through 31, it says, "But this I say, brethren, the time is short, so that from now on, even those who have wives should be as though they had none, those who weep as though they did not weep, those who rejoice as though they did not rejoice, those who buy as though they did not possess, and those who use this world as not misusing it. For the form of this world is passing away." Paul here writing in chapter 7, he talks a little bit about the husband and wife relationship, but he says at the beginning that the time is short. And basically acting as like for someone who has wife as if they did not have no wife, basically meaning that people, husbands and wives, they are focused on their spouse. And so there are. He's saying basically that you need to recognize that the time is short, and have some urgency here. Recognize that we're not just always going to be on this earth. The form of this world is passing away. So how should we be acting? If we know that the world is passing away, which means our lives are going to end, which would then mean that we're going to go enter into judgment. The Hebrew writer will tell us that it is appointed unto men to die once, and then the judgment. That once man dies, I believe that's in Hebrews chapter 9, I believe. But once a man dies, he's going to judgment. He's going to be judged on what he has done. And so, if we recognize that, how should we be living? Will we be wasting our time? Will we just be focused on, acquiring more stuff? I don't think that we would if we really recognize that. And I think this is what Paul here is trying to tell us here. 1 Peter 4 verse 7, it says, "But the end of all things is at hand. Therefore be serious and watchful in your prayers." Peter says the end of all things is at hand. It's coming. And so he says, be serious and watchful in your prayers. If you thought that tomorrow or the next hour that the end is coming, that it's right here, it's fixing to happen. Again, how would we be thinking? What would be our focus? What would be our purpose here? And if we really have that at the forefront of our minds, I think would be a little bit more serious and be more mindful of spiritual things. But he's saying here, because of that, be serious and watchful in your prayers. John 2. This is 1 John chapter 2 verse 18 actually. It says, "Little children, it is the last hour, and as you have heard that the Antichrist is coming, even now many Antichrists have come, by which we know that it is the last hour." Now, not to divert too much from the topic, but John here, and then we see what right there in 1 Peter chapter 4 as well, that the writers, the apostles, will talk about this being the last hour, or the end is near, or in Acts chapter 2, Peter will reference the last days, and I believe that was in reference to Joel chapter 2 as well, that he quotes that, and I may be misquoting that, but there is a reference there basically to the last days, and the last days is basically the time after Christ. That it's not necessarily talking about the last few days before the end of the world here. But there is this reference to the last days or the last hour, and that there's an imminence to Christ's return. We don't know when that may be. It might be tomorrow. It might be an hour from now. It might be 100 years. It might be 1,000 years from now. We don't know. But these are what the Bible describes as the last days. And so here in 1 John chapter 2, he says that the Antichrist is coming, and even now many Antichrists have already come. Okay, by which we know that it is the last hour. And so he's saying that these people, he describes them as antichrist, which means that they are against Christ. Okay, these are folks that are opposing Christ. Might be speaking false doctrine, deceiving people, anything of that nature. But he says this is coming, and that it is the last hour. In James 5 and verses 8 through 9, it says, "You also be patient, establish your hearts, for the coming of the Lord is at hand. Do not grumble against one another, brethren, lest you be condemned. Behold, the judge is standing at the door." James gives us this picture again. The coming of the Lord is at hand. And he says, behold, the judge is standing at the door. Again, when the end comes, then the judgment. And he says, don't grumble lest you be condemned. And so you be mindful of how you act, be mindful of what you're thinking about, what you're saying, because the judge is standing at the door. Again, if we recognize that the end can come at any moment, and then the judge, we're going to the judge. Here, James says the judge is standing at the door. How different we might act, and how different we should act if we actually believe and follow this. Romans 13, verse 11, it says, "And do this, knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep, for now our salvation is nearer than we first believed." Time's marching forward. It's getting closer. Paul here says our salvation is nearer than we first believed. Salvation is talked in different contexts. When we see, like it, for example, in Acts chapter 2, that salvation is associated with the remission of sins. So once one is forgiven initially, they receive salvation. That's what the Bible talks about. But we also see here in Romans 13 that salvation is talked about as a future event. This would be when we're with God. We are entering into eternal life, and so one will receive eternal life after they die, or after Jesus returns. And so as time marches on, by necessity, we're getting closer and closer. And Paul is wanting those that are reading this to recognize that it's high time. It's getting closer. Salvation is getting closer. And as he puts it, we need to wake out of sleep. Got to wake up. Need to change. Need to start doing what is right. 2 Peter 3, verse 10 says, "But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens will pass away with a great noise, and the elements will melt with fervent heat. Both the earth and the works that are in it will be burned up." I did a lesson in this several months. It might be over a year ago, or years maybe, since I've done this. But talking about the different ideas around the end of the world. When is that going to come? And talking about, is there going to be a rapture and a 7-year tribulation, and then will Christ return at that point and reign 1,000 years physically on earth? And we talked about that idea of and that doctrine is known as premillennialism, and we talked about here on this show here, and how there's some conflicts with that teaching and what the Bible actually says. And in that case, if you follow that line of thought, that there's really several comings of the Lord. Okay, but the Bible speaks of only one more coming of the Lord, and here this coming, or what is described as the day of the Lord here in 2 Peter chapter 3, what's going to happen? It says the earth and the works that are in it is going to be burned up. The heavens are going to pass away. Everything is going to be done away with. Everything is going to be destroyed when the day of the Lord comes. And Peter here saying that it comes as a thief in the night. Well, how does a thief come? Does he let people know when he's fixing to break into the house? Obviously not. You're not going to know. It's going to sneak up on you, and so that's what he's saying here, that there's not going to be any notice. You're not going to know when this day comes, and so this is what's going to happen. And if you read 2 Peter and in this context of this end, he will talk about the need to make sure that one's salvation is sure and secure. Again, that we need to walk according to the will of God as well. But again, we see that the apostles, for example, with John and Peter and Paul, they will talk about the end, or either the end of the earth or the end of our lives as being close, being at hand. And we need to recognize that, and we need to be diligent that we are prepared for what happens if that day comes. And we're all going to die, but we don't know when the day of the Lord is going to be. So we always need to be prepared. Revelation 3 verse 3 says, "Remember therefore how you have received and heard, hold fast and repent. Therefore, if you will not watch, I will come upon you as a thief, and you will not know what hour I will come upon you." Now, Jesus here, he's talking to a specific church. I can't remember, but it's one of the seven churches of Revelation that's mentioned here. And this is, in this context here, this is, this is, to me, this is speaking of judgment. That if this church does not change, that it says Jesus here, he's going to come upon you as a thief. That there's going to be some type of judgment being made, whether this is judgment on the church at some point pretty near in that time period, or is he talking about judgment for the individuals when they die? I don't know what the context here, but he does say that I'm going to come upon you as a thief. You're going to suffer consequences if you do not change here. And again, he's talking to an entire church here. And I think about all the different churches today. I'm sure that there's a lot of churches today that Jesus will have the same attitude here, that if things don't change, Jesus is taking note, and he's going to come upon them as a thief. In Luke 12, verses 39 through 40, it says, "But know this, that if the master of the house had known what hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. Therefore you also be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect." Similar to, again, to what we have previously read, Jesus is going to come at an hour one does not expect. If one knew that there was going to be a thief coming, he would have been prepared. And so Jesus is telling everybody, hey, he's coming back, but you're not going to expect it. And so what should you be doing then? Well, you should be prepared for that. You should be preparing for the eventuality that thief is going to break into your house. If you go to sleep at night, what happens? Usually you're going to be locking the doors. If you got an alarm system, maybe you set up that alarm system or whatever it may be, but you prepare for if that thief shows up. And so if you're going to be showing up for being prepared for the thief, you need to be prepared for Jesus when he returns, when he shows back up. And when you think about all of this, I think about, we see there at the verse we just looked at, that if one knows that a thief might break into the house, he would prepare for that. But you think about some of the things that we might deal with on a daily basis. I think about, what happens when somebody calls and says they're fixing to show up at your house. Maybe this afternoon or maybe tomorrow. What does the wife or the mom usually do once she hears that? There's usually some concern over the cleanliness of the house. It's all hands on deck. There's some urgency here. We got to clean up the house. We've got to make it look presentable, and everybody's pitching in to help. That when we see that this is going to happen in the future, that somebody else is going to show up in the future, well then we're putting in some real effort to correct whatever might have been neglected in the past, or maybe we're even making things even cleaner than what they were previously. And so when that happens, everybody knows that, hey, we're going to be showing some diligence. We're going to be working hard. We're going to be working fast, making sure that we're prepared for those people when they show up at the house. You think about it at your job. If you got some deadline and it's an urgent deadline, say somebody maybe this evening your boss emails you and say, "Hey, we got to have this done by Monday at 8 a.m." Well, if the boss needs it done on Monday at 8 a.m., what's going to happen? Well, you're going to be looks like you're going to be late, staying up late Sunday evening, making sure that report gets done because it's urgent, that it's needed. And you think about all those things, and think about it that in regards to our view towards the end of our lives, or this idea that we just looked at that Jesus could return at any time. Do we show the same diligence towards that as we might would if we had this report due that's due at Monday at 8 a.m. or if some folks were coming to visit our house tomorrow and we need to clean up all of our mess? Do we show that that same diligence? And usually not. And again, you think about our work and that maybe we need something done that requires hard labor very quickly. Well, what are we going to do? Well, we're just going to suck it up and do it. And so, seeing all that and thinking about that, again, what should be our mindset towards the end? That if we recognize that we just don't have unlimited time on the earth, what should be our focus? What should be our priorities? We have some questions here on the slides. First one is, what is keeping you from reading the Bible? Is it, well, I just don't have no time. My job keeps me too busy. Whatever it may be. Usually you got some time, right? Usually when people come home, what do? They're usually watching TV or they're scrolling on the phone or whatever it may be. Usually there is some time that you could have been doing that you could have been reading the Bible, but people choose other things, things that are more of a mindless nature. What is keeping you from applying what you've read in the Bible? You can read some things in the Bible that's very, very hard, that's very uncomfortable to put into action. And there's can be many things that would keep us from actually applying what we have read. Think about how much time you have wasted this week. Again, scrolling on your phone, just sitting doing nothing. There's a lot of time that probably could have been used doing something. Uh, the average work week, I guess, is 40 hours a week. That's 8 hours a day. That means that there's 16 hours a day left for you to do, really whatever you want to do. And so, how much of those 16 hours, how much of the 24 hours a day have you wasted? And really, the last question, do we have no time to do as we ought? Most of us do have time. I don't know if I've ever met anyone that really did not have time to read the Bible, or just simply doing the right thing. Doing the right thing a lot of times doesn't really take much time away from our schedule. And so the excuse of no time doesn't really hold a lot of water. And so if we recognize that our time, our life is short, again, we think about, well, what if we were going to die tomorrow? I believe a lot of us, if we really thought that we were going to die tomorrow, what we would do would be a whole lot different. And suddenly, we wouldn't have so much of a, quote, lack of time as we might have previously thought. And it's just a problem of our priorities and what our focus is. And so that's the end of our lesson here. I hope it's been useful. I hope it gives us some things to think about. And what can we do to make the most use of our time? Again, how we should think about the time that we have on Earth, and what we can do to put it to the best use. So again, I hope this has been useful to you. This will be put up on YouTube. Again, our YouTube page is North Columbus Church of Christ. You can find all of our videos there, and we'll keep on putting these videos out. We try to put them up Sunday at 7 p.m. And as always, if you do have a question or comment, feel free to leave them here on this video or on our YouTube, and I'll try to respond to them. But until next time, I hope that you all have a good day and a good rest of the week. Thanks.